It began with a very faint flicker, a niggle in the data. Something cold, moving quickly and quietly through our solar system in a way nothing ever had before. Telescopes from Hawaii to South Africa caught it first. NASA then confirmed it. A brand new, uncharted object unbound by gravity's expected rules and, most terrifying of all, coming from outside our solar system. At first, it was just another rock. But within hours, patterns emerged. Speed too fast, too perfect a trajectory, too perfect reflections, bright. And when scientists traced its path, what they discovered made the blood run cold. Cold. It was headed straight toward the foundation of the system. We've long believed that space is silent, still, and indifferent. But now, as this mysterious object barrels through our cosmic backyard, the James Webb Space Telescope has turned its gaze upon it. And what it has begun to demonstrate is something we may not be ready for, because some are now asking, what if this isn't just a visitor? What if it's watching us in return? First detected between June 25th and 29th, the item, which is now officially known as 3I Atlas, appeared on the radar of Atlas, a high-speed sky-scanning system intended to identify potentially hazardous objects before they surprise us. But Atlas didn't just find another asteroid this time. What it caught was different. It exceeded 152,000 DAs and mph. Its orbit didn't follow any of the known cometary gravitational loops or wanderers within the solar system. And when astronomers reversed its trajectory through simulation, its origin pointed not to the Oort cloud, not to Neptune, but to interstellar space, possibly the core of our galaxy. This wasn't a leftover rock from the formation of the solar system. This was something that had been traveling through the dark for tens of thousands of years, unseen. And now it had entered our solar system through the threshold domain. But the deeper mystery wasn't exactly from where it came. The reason was now, because before 2017, we had never seen a single interstellar object. We now have seen 3, and each one has been stranger than the last. After the initial confirmation, scientists around the world scrambled to get time on the most powerful space observatory ever built, the James Webb Space Telescope. Designed to peer deeper into space and time than ever before, Webb was now focused on something much closer and potentially much more unsettling. The brightness of the object didn't match its apparent size. In light of the intensity of the light it reflected, it should have been massive. But measurements suggested something smaller, which means the surface isn't behaving like rock or ice. It's behaving like metal, highly reflective, cold, conceivably hollow. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who previously suggested that the 2017 object Oumuamua might have been artificial, once again stepped forward. He urged scientists to look for non-gravitational acceleration, small deviations in motion that can't be explained only by the gravity of the sun. If such deviations exist, they might indicate that the object isn't drifting, but navigating. And if it's navigating, then we are not observing a rock, but rather watching a decision. To comprehend the seriousness of this discovery, we have to look at the 2 interstellar objects that came before it. Oumuamua burst onto the scene in 2017, the strange world of science, elongated shape, lack of comet tail, and mysterious acceleration after passing the sun despite showing no signs of gas or outgassing. Then in 2019, Borisov stepped into the picture. Clearly a comet, yes, but more rapidly and volatilely than anything seen before. With each of these objects, we were left with more questions than answers. But 3I Atlas is different. It combines the inexplicable brightness of Oumuamua with the trajectory of Borisov. It does not behave like a rock, but it also doesn't fit neatly into the category of a comet. And now astronomers are considering something even more radical. These may not be isolated events. They may be part of a pattern, a wave, a slow, deliberate sequence of contacts that look like randomness. Because for centuries our skies were empty, then they suddenly weren't. And the only variable that changed, we were. Among all the scientific papers, trajectory models, and observational data, lies one question that no institution would like to address to the public. What if it's not natural? When you remove everything that doesn't make sense, if the brightness is excessively high, if the path is too sharp, if motion isn't gravitational, you're left with a possibility that is too scary for most to say aloud. Artificiality. Not aliens in the Hollywood sense. Not flying saucers and green faces, but probes. Autonomous systems, Artificial messengers sent long ago from places far away. Loeb suggests we may already have missed the message from Oumuamua, and that 3 Atlas may be our second chance. Its surface properties, its abnormal speed, as well as the timing of its arrival, all point toward intentionality, or at least engineering. The James Webb Telescope will continue to monitor its thermal signature, trajectory, and spin. However, what if the responses we're about to find are not about what it is but about who sent it? Because in a cosmos that's 13.8 billion years old, the most terrifying discovery wouldn't be that we're alone. It would be that we've been watched all along, and only now we're capable of noticing. As days passed, the data from the James Webb Telescope and its supporting ground-based counterparts began to converge on something deeply unsettling. As a result, the object was accelerating, a little but not in the same way that solar radiation could explain. This did not outgas like a comet. There was no tail, no particle plume, no traceable emission. However, the object did not stop to alter its trajectory, slipping past predicted paths with eerie precision. Webb's infrared lens confirmed a faint but consistent thermal signature, not unstable but patterned and directed. The exception echoed the same behavior seen in Oumuamua, where a similar unexplained acceleration prompted a quiet panic behind scientific doors. Once more, however, it wasn't dismissed. It was measured, tracked, and now feared, because the very act of acceleration suggests something else without force, something with control. And for the first time, scientists began to whisper in internal memos, which they were unable to do before. Say on record, we're not just observing this object, we might be under observation too. With Webb's advanced instruments aimed directly at the object, the team at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center carried out an exhaustive spectral analysis. They expected to discover ice, iron, and silicates, typical signs of celestial debris. What they discovered instead shattered expectations. The surface composition didn't match any known asteroid or comet profile. A few lines of absorption suggested the presence of advanced carbon structures, which are more typically associated with materials that are engineered than with natural geology. In layman's terms, it looked manufactured. Not only was the reflectivity unusually high, but there were hints of balance. How the object was spun, an almost unheard-of phenomenon in random cosmic debris. One side took in possibly more heat than the other, indicating intentional design. Even more baffling, fluctuations in electromagnetic measurements suggested internal complication, possibly even cavities or density in layers. Whatever this was, it wasn't a typical chunk of rock, and if it isn't a rock, what is it? That question began to echo from NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, to the European Southern Observatory, to the classified halls of national defense agencies. Because if nature didn't make this, someone did it. As public excitement grew, a new kind of silence began to settle in. Agencies that first made available data on the trajectory and light curves, NASA, ESA, and India's ISRO, abruptly retreated. Mission pages ceased to update. Observational timelines disappeared. Requests for raw web data were denied, citing internal review. FOIA requests submitted by journalists were heavily edited. Documents and whispers began to leak from inside observatories. Researchers drawn from groups, experts reassigned, and access to feeds from the telescope quietly restricted. The people initially fed a narrative of curiosity were now met with closed doors. Why, what changed? Analysts in the astrophysics community began to suspect that something had been found, something extraordinary, and that governments were scrambling not just to understand it, but to decide what the public should be allowed to know. Because once a discovery reaches a certain threshold, one that challenges the frameworks of physics, safety, or faith, it no longer belongs to the realm of science. Control becomes the issue, and space control is just as much about silence when it comes to signals. As the object continues its silent glide through the solar system, a brand new, all over the place people are realizing, scientific community. This is now more than just a data point. It's an inflection point. A moment where centuries of assumptions about space, solitude, and human centrality are being forced into reconsideration. If this object is artificial, then it came from a culture that was much older than ours. One capable of building something that can last for millennia in the depths of space. One that may never be required to speak because its presence alone is message enough. And if it isn't artificial, then we've just found a rare and advanced natural phenomenon that mimics design to the point of deception. Either way, the conclusion is the same. Our comprehension of the universe is incomplete, and James Webb just held up a mirror to that ignorance. No longer are we gazing into the void. It's possible that the void is gazing back, and what it sees might finally be worthy of attention. In the midst of the increasing mystery, a more disquieting idea began to ripple through the scientific community. Not in public conferences or peer-reviewed journals, but in hushed conversations and encrypted emails between researchers. What would happen if this item, silent interstellar visitor, was never meant to be discovered by chance? What if the timing of its arrival, the growing intelligence of our instruments, and the particular inclination of the James Webb Telescope, all converging at this precise moment in history, was the final variable in a cosmic experiment? Not merely a fragment moving through space, but a test. A probe waiting to be noticed by a civilization that had finally crossed the line of detection. One that signals, "You're now intelligent enough to locate us. Now let's see what you do next." Think about it. Silence on the radio for billions of years. No messages, no signals, no obvious visitors. Yet now, with AI's development, quantum physics accelerating, and humanity beginning to stretch its fingers beyond Mars, something appears. Quiet, precise, intriguing enough to lure our greatest telescope from its deep space explorations and onto it. Could this be the moment where we become the data point? Where our fears, our science, our reactions, and our silence all become part of their observation? Because maybe the scariest part of this discovery isn't what we saw, but the realization that we were never at all the observers. The James Webb Space Telescope was built to look outward, to trace the earliest stars, decode the origins of galaxies, and pull back the curtain on cosmic time. But what it found instead was something here now, and possibly watching back. Not at the outermost universe, but crossing through our cosmic doorstep. An object too perfect to be random, too silent to be ordinary, and too timely to be coincidence. We wanted answers. Instead, we found a mirror, a mystery that glides quietly and reflects not just infrared light, but our most fundamental fears. Are we alone? Have we ever been? Or were we simply never advanced enough to notice what's been passing us by? What James Webb has revealed is not just a heavenly object. It's the beginning of a new vocabulary, one that may include things we're not ready to define, whether artificial or natural, intelligent or accidental. The truth is this: a new phase of our lives has begun, cosmic awareness. One where not only do telescopes show us stars, they show us how much we still don't know, and maybe how much someone else already does. This was not an alert light. It was a test pattern. And now, the issue is not whether or not we will locate something beyond our reach. It's whether something has already found us. If this story sent a chill down your spine, if it made you question everything we thought we knew about the cosmos, if it forced you to wonder who's really looking through the lens, then don't walk away in silence. Subscribe to this channel because we follow the signals that others ignore. Switch on notifications due to the following object may not simply be passing by. Share this video chat with someone who still thinks we are alone in the pitch black. Comment below. Do you think this eerie object is natural or something more?